Okay. This is Livin Lovin Maid. We're going to have to put up with a little bit of the Nintendo Wii noise upstairs. My daughter's home today. Santa brought her a Wii for Christmas, so it's a little loud. But wait till they hear my drums. Anyway, this is Livin Lovin Maid. Alright. Now, Livin Lovin Maid is, a classic Zeppelin tune off Zeppelin 2, of course. Anyway, so the gist of the song is usually every song is developed out of a riff. This song, apparently, you more or less have just two parts. You have da 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 da, right? And then you have the da 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 da, just that little part. Okay, so it's essentially two different parts. Although there is also sort of a verse part where where before the riff comes in, the da 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 da, there's just a straight dug 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 dug, and that's where our plant's singing the da 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 da, that one, da 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 da. Okay, so when the song first starts in a classic Zeppelin fashion, actually usually when bands record, oftentimes the drums usually oftentimes, the nature is just not dumb down the drum track, but keep it a little more simple because it's more listenable, or back in the day the logic was more danceable or whatever in this, because you don't want too much syncopation all over the joint, at least for rock and roll. But anyway, with Zeppelin, what happens is when the tune starts, it starts right into the tune. 1, 2, 3, 4, da-na-na-na-na-na, okay? Now, it sounds to me when the song first starts, and it's going to sound a little funky here because of the nature of the drums, but it sounds like Bonham's just keeping straight time. Pardon the head. Okay? That's what it sounds like. But the feel he has going on there is almost like this, though. Like... Now, that's the feel. I'm not saying that's what he's playing. But it gives the impression, though, that it's like chugging along, okay? But if you really listen to what Bonham's actually playing on the intro of the song, he's really just going. Okay? Now again, it sounds real choppy there because part of the music isn't there. The bass drum's more chunky here. Anyway, he goes into that. So that's where the main music is happening. The jig 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 jig. He's singing the verse right here, jig 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 singing, and then da 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 jig 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 na 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 na. Okay, so on that first part, it's essentially straight, but it's not really like. I know it sounds real like here. It sounds really like talking headsy, but it's really. But the general pulse of it really is more like a 1 and 2 and. So that's really the vibe it gives. When in fact to me it actually really kind of gives the vibe more of like. Okay. Again, so on the very intro of the song, I think he's just, if you listen closely, I think he's just playing straight. But with the more the feel of like. Okay. Sorry, I keep opening the hat. When I used to play the song, it's a long story. So but then when you get to the da 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 da, he syncopates that. So it's like. What happens there. So again, on the main music part, before that riff comes in, you can play just, okay? Okay? Or as the song progresses, he does start adding more to that one part. It gets to be really more. Okay? And you can come out of the box playing that way too. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Although again, I think at the beginning she's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? I know I've said that 100,000 times, but I like to make it clear. So then we get into the da 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 da, which I think is so ba ba da 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 da. da 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 da. But he might actually do this a couple times too. Add another bass drum note. Ba da 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 da. Hang on. Da 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 da. Like, because his bass drum was real, especially in those early days. The bass drum was fast. He put it everywhere. But again, I think the paradigm of the beat of the riff is da 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 da. Okay. So ba da 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 da. And again, sometimes there's minor as the song progresses. Sometimes it gets a little busier, minor things. Then we get into the da 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 da. Ba-na-na-na-na, and that one's straight up syncopated too. So you have, yeah, that's the important thing to remember. What he does every time. So he goes. So it's essentially da 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 da. Okay, so da da. He puts an N1 right after the second crash. So okay, so that's essentially it for those three parts. Okay, again the da 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 is. Technically speaking, on that first part too, again the very first part before the riff, where the guitar and the bass are just going da 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 like that. Again, I think what I said was, I know at the very beginning of the tune, I don't mean to be that hoarse, but I want to be thorough, is that what I hear at the very beginning is just him keeping time like that, okay, and then into the and then back into this. Okay, so remember the song goes da 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 da. Okay, so but now again, beginning the first part where they're just keeping time. I think it's straight, but as the song goes on, remember I said I think he's going. And I think sometimes then he does an alternation of it, just so one. So either way, you can, again, on the intro of the song, I think it's just straight. Later on the song, I know it seems to go like sort of a not broken pattern. So boom ba, boom boom ba, boom ba, boom boom ba. And then later on the song, it seems like he's doing the boom boom ba every time. That's like the whole thing, okay? And then you have the da 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 da, that part, and that's essentially just so. Now, as the song goes on, he starts adding more bass drum notes to that. But I think the main gist is just like a classic, the Bonham turnaround. But it's not quite as busy as that. That right there. Okay? That's the gist of it. Okay? But then, of course, what he adds is, at the tail end of that, he'll add in like a snare fill sometimes. And then at one point, I think he adds in a triplet-y feel one. So the first one might go. He somehow works in a. I'm sorry, I listen to it. My best advice for this would be to watch this if you want to get down those individual parts, and then listen to the song. I just got to confess that "Livin' Lovin' Maid" to me wasn't one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. I loved it years ago,
but I used to work at a place, my cousin's place, where we had Led Zeppelin 2 on 8-track. And as you know, those things used to just, you could set them up so they just loop. So Livin' Lovin' Maid got to be one of my least favorite songs that way. So anyway, so and then sometimes they'll add more bass drum notes. So instead of, okay, so there's a difference. The less bassy drum versus, okay, and again, toward the end of that little part sometimes, so he'll usually throw in a snare thing. And if he does that straight, he'll usually do the bass drum into the crash. So, okay, and then except for that one part, I think he goes. I don't know if this, you know what I mean. You'll hear the part. He throws one of those in there. But then as we get toward the end of that part, you know how it goes. And then or and that actually that served 3 different ways. You know, at one point he just, I think at the very beginning they might just go right back into the song. And then they go right back into it. That might be the first one. And then the other time they do that climb. And then, of course, you have the... Okay? And I think when he does that, he's hitting the hi-hat, the snare, and the bass drum at the same time. Okay? But again, coming out of that... That's how he ends it. That's how at the tail end when he stops. So... and one or two of them might be straight. Like that. But usually does a turnaround thing into the end of it. Right? Okay, into the end. And that's pretty much the straight end of the tune. And again, the whole thing, remember, in that song, the feel is... I mean, it really is almost like a... Okay, although he really doesn't play it that once or twice in the song, he might add in all 3. But again, the beginning, I think it's just straight... And then... But of course, at the very, I left a couple bass drum notes out there at the end. So, don't leave. The way he plays it, he always throws in those 2 bass drum notes at the end. When I just did that whole first section a second ago, I left them out. So the whole part on the very intro would go in the verse here. Back in the verse. Leaving. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'm trying not to make a whole lot of noise because my family's upstairs playing Nintendo. But I hope this answers the questions. Again, sometimes in those Zeppelin tunes too, especially the earlier ones, the bass drum isn't usually mixed really loud. Or sometimes the drums are, like in that song, the drums aren't mixed to the forefront as much as they would be in other Zeppelin tunes, so it's hard to really hear what he's doing. But I think that's the whole gist of it. And that's actually an interesting tune. You know, if you really sit and listen to it, you can really hear him like speed up and stuff and slow down in that tune. It sounds like a tune that they sort of wrote. They might have ran through a couple times and then straight off recorded. the rhythm bed anyway. You know what I mean? Like, did it, maybe then Jimmy Page took it home, maybe edited a part out and threw some more guitars on it or something. But you can really hear it. They're sort of just jamming through it. And anyway, I hope this is really helpful. I hope you had a good Christmas.